This song that I'm going to share is entitled Call to Be. It was written by the amazing Faith Rivera. I am called to be a healer for all humanity. I am called to be a dreamer, believe in what can be. I am called to be a maker, be an instrument of peace. I am called to be a giver, of abundance I receive. I am called to be a prayer, living out the truth I seek. I am called to be everything. I am called to be the glory here on earth, so all might see all of the love and all the beauty that shines in you and me. I am the living, breathing God, and you are one in me. We are called to be. You are called to be a mother, to nurture family. You are called to be a brother, be strength in times of need. You are called to be a neighbor, see friends in all you meet. You are called to be a leader, to build community. You are called to be a prayer, living out the truth you seek. You are called to be everything. You are called to be the glory here on earth, so all might see all of the love and all the beauty that shines in you and me. You are the living, breathing God, and you are one in me. We are called to be. We are called to be the kindness, set the brokenhearted free. We are called to be forgiveness, where pain has run too deep. We are called to be compassion, be the wind beneath each wing. We are called to make communion, only then can we succeed. We are called to be a prayer, living out the truth you seek. We are called to be everything. We are called to be the glory here on earth, so all might see all of the love and all the beauty that shines in you and me. We are the living, breathing God, and you are one in me. We're called to be peace, called to be joy, called to be love, called to be free, called to be peace, called to be joy, called to be free, called to be peace, called to be joy, called to be love, called to be. Oh, we're called to be, yeah. Oh, we're called to be peace, called to be joy, called to be love, called to be free, called to be peace, called to be joy, called to be free. We're called to be peace, called to be joy, called to be love, called to be. Oh, we're called to be free. We're called to be, yeah, called to be peace, yeah. Oh, we're called to be, yeah, called to be love, called to be free, yeah. Oh, we're called to be, yeah. Called to be, we're called to be love. Oh, we're called to be.
Good morning. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm Ed Trout. It's my pleasure to be your speaker this morning. This month, we have been talking about our superpowers. Louise Dunn started off the month talking about our superpower of prayer. And unity, the unity movement was founded on prayer. It is indeed a superpower. The second week, I talked about the 5 unity principles and how they remind us of our connection to the divine, because everything is divine energy. And those principles remind us of that connection and bring us gifts that we can utilize on a regular basis to keep us feeling connected to the divine. Last week, Michael gave a really stirring talk on our superpower of flying. How, like a kite, we take that resistance and we rise in that resistance, but we use our faith, like that kite string, to keep us grounded. And that faith is also coupled then with love and wisdom to give us broader perspective and order as we're in that soaring altitude, looking down on the chaos, we can find the order. So this week, I want to talk about our superpower of change. Specifically, our power to change and grow. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, Ed, a few weeks back, didn't you do a talk on changing gears about flexibility? Yes, I did. And flexibility is still important. That was when we were focused on hope, and flexibility as an aspect of keeping our hope alive. And yes, flexibility is necessary for change, but I'm talking about something that is a little more direct and conscious. This isn't just allowing change. It isn't just allowing for that flexibility. This is choosing change, and choosing change that allows us to grow. There's a lot of change that's going to happen regardless. But when we can couple the change that is going on in the world and the change that is going on with us with a conscious choice toward our higher good, it is incredibly powerful. There's a website called Metamorphosis, Your Stories, where people are free to post their own stories of their transitions in life. And I found one by Michelle Penn that it just spoke to me because of how her journey unfolded. So I want to share that with you. It's entitled, My Journey to Eckhart Tolle, who is an author that I know many people in this room are familiar with. So Michelle had found herself, as many do, in a relationship that was not necessarily working the best for her. She was in a relationship with a husband who was verbally abusive, emotionally abusive. There got to be a point where, in one particularly emotional rage, he threatened to kill her. That was when she knew she needed to make the choice to leave that relationship. It was no longer serving. She had wallowed in it long enough. It was time to move on. In moving on, she sought guidance and solace from writings of Eckhart Tolle, amongst some others, but especially his. She also found that her photography helped her a lot, and she was very specifically attracted to flowers and doing these gorgeous photos, often very up close photos of flowers. And then, looking at the combination of those two things, she read a quote from Eckhart that said, "Seeing beauty in a flower could awaken humans, however briefly, to the beauty that is an essential part of their own innermost being, their true nature." When she read that, she knew that he would connect to her images of flowers. And immediately it came to her that she was to put together a book of his quotes and her images. So she started doing a mock-up. but she didn't really have a way to get this to him to say, hey, here's a great idea that I know will resonate with you. So guess what? She had a chance encounter with a woman who, and again, it came from a very circuitous path of how she ended up talking to this woman, but found out that the woman had had a book published. That publisher had recently done a children's book with Eckhart Tolle. Not his normal publisher, but a secondary publisher. And that woman was able to get Michelle in contact with that publisher. She gave her their mock-up. They loved it, but they said, Eckhart Tolle is really hard to get in touch with. He doesn't do that. She said, well, can you get it to his regular publisher, Namaste? And they said, we will try. So they did get it to that publisher. That publishing company, again, loved the concept. They were also a little reluctant to pass it on because they said, he just doesn't do this. But they did, and of course, he loved it. Now, he did have a significant stipulation that she had not foreseen. He wanted to bring in another author to help. That author was Byron Katie. Again, a very well-known name among New Thought churches. And so Michelle was like, oh, okay. If we bring on Byron Katie, that's fine by me. And of course, the book came to be, and it's a beautiful collection of these photographs and nature and these uplifting and insightful quotes. Now, through this process, she never got to meet Eckhart Tolle, although she still held that vision. And there was an event that she was attending where he spoke. And it was a multi-day event. So she, early on, got to his people and said, I would really like to meet him. And they said, oh, he doesn't do that. He's going to keep private. And she gave them a copy of the book and said, this is who I am. We actually have worked on this project together. Could you just get it to him and let him know I am here? Well, of course, the next day, they waved her down and said, he's willing to meet with you. So she got to meet with Eckhart. They had photo ops, handshakes, signed each other's books, and then he asked if he could get another signed copy from her because he was seeing Oprah that week and wanted to give one to her, which was something else that Michelle had sort of envisioned but didn't realize it was coming that way. So all of this unfolded from first her making the choice to realize she was in an unhealthy relationship, a situation that did not serve her higher good. And then when she left that, she made the choice to look for things that did serve her higher good, her higher purpose. And because she made those choices in that time of change, all of this unfolded. Change is scary. We as human beings, as much as we might be, I'm cutting edge, I want to make all these things happen, we still don't like change. We like some stability, we like some predictability. And we sometimes feel too invested, too rooted, too locked into anything to move on from it. But Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, very famously said, I reserve the right to change my mind. Whether that was on some study that he was doing and he was making an observation that later he might have some more illumination about and say, oh, I want to redirect that thought, or whether it's something about a situation, right? I reserve the right to change my mind. That choice to change, choice of changing mind, it goes back biblically all the way to the beginning, right? Garden of Eden. That story is set with, here's a choice. You can do this or this. We are given the ability to choose. We are given the ability to make choices that serve us and serve the world, or that sometimes don't, at least not immediately or directly. I want to look at a passage from 1 Corinthians. This is chapter 13. I'm going to use probably a little bit more of it than I might necessarily need, but I think it is all pertinent. So this starts with verse 8. Some of it will be familiar, I'm sure. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. So it wouldn't be me if I didn't look at least one word from original translations. In the Greek, the word, when I was a child, I talked like a child, that word was nepios. It can literally mean child. It can mean like a babe, an infant child, but it is also often used to indicate somebody that is uneducated, unlearned, untrained, uninitiated. So, as we know, when we look at any spiritual texts, they are layered texts. And normally, all of those meanings have some application. So in part, what this is also saying is, before I knew better, this is how I spoke, and this is how I talked, and this is how I reasoned. But now I've matured spiritually. And now I know better. I can put those unlearned ways away because I am maturing spiritually. That's how I need to act. Now we only see in part, but when we connect with the divine, we can see in full, at least to a degree, right? So, when life changes, how do we look at it? Do we look at it as the child, as the uneducated, as the uninitiated, or do we look at it in our spiritual maturity? What are we called to be? Michael sang that beautiful Faith Rivera song about all these things that we are called to be. Are we making the choice to step up in those things? What does love call us to be? If love is the greatest of those things, faith, hope, and love is the greatest. What is it calling us to be? This is apparently my morning for relating other people's stories as well, because I have another one. Karen Taylor Good, who many in this room know. You know her music. She has been here, and she has come here with Stowe Daily as Stowe Good. They've performed here and spoken here multiple times. She had a very recent talk that came out just this week, I believe, on her YouTube channel. If you do not subscribe to their YouTube channel, please go subscribe. If you have not purchased their music, please go purchase it. But Karen had a talk about how she came to write a Grammy-nominated song. And so I spent some time listening to that talk this week, and I just want to share the highlights of that talk. Again, go watch it yourself. You'll get more details, but I wanted to share the highlights. So when Karen was 17, she had already realized she had a gift for singing, and she started making her living, making a career out of being a singer. And at age 17, she would play with some bands, they would play some clubs, but primarily, as far as earning income, she got it by singing things like radio jingles and the things that companies would hire her to sing so that they had this little bit of music to play. So she did that for a while, and then she broke into the Chicago market. And so she started getting hired by Taco Bell and airlines and so forth to sing jingles. So she was still singing jingles, she was just singing them for bigger companies and getting some bigger checks, which is all good. But in her 30s, she received the gift of songwriting. She had thought up until that point that she was just a singer. She couldn't write. That was not her gift. She realized it was indeed her gift. So she started writing songs. She was also learning some spiritual practices that taught her things like follow your bliss and the money will come, right? And so she started thinking, well, my bliss is really in the songwriting and being that side of things. I love singing, but I really want to be able to be a songwriter. So she gave up the jingles. She was working in Nashville as a songwriter. And as she points out, do you know how you get a songwriter's attention in Nashville? You go, hey, waiter. She said, everybody in Nashville is a songwriter. Everybody. She said, it is impossible to get, not impossible, very hard to get traction and get noticed as a songwriter there because that's everyone. So she she had about 2 years of trying and struggling, and her money was running out. All of that money from the jingles was running out. And she was getting ready to file for bankruptcy. She had an appointment on Monday morning with a bankruptcy attorney. And she, on Sunday, the day before that meeting, had her alarm go off to get her to go to church. She turned off the alarm. She's like, that place that tells me, yeah, follow your bliss and the money will come. Well, it wasn't working. She's not going to go. And then she said this voice came that just said, go to church. She was like, I'm not going. And then it just got more insistent, go to church. I don't want to go. Go to church. She's like, fine, I'm getting up. I'll go to church. She went on into church that day. And she said Reverend Mitch gave a wonderful, wonderful lesson. Reverend Mitch, by the way, also a songwriter. But Reverend Mitch gave a lovely lesson on how much we say no in life and no to the world. And there are so many opportunities in life that come up that we immediately reject. So he had the congregation take a pledge as an experiment just for 1 week to say yes. For 1 week, you were going to say yes to whatever life brought to you. So Karen's like, okay, I'll take the pledge. The service ended, and a woman that Karen barely knew came up to her and said, now, you're a songwriter, right? I got this friend who's an actor in LA, and he wanted to collaborate with somebody on a song. Would you be willing to do that? Well, Karen had just taken this pledge, right? She had 1,000 reasons that came up. She was like, no, an actor, it's going to be all ego. I don't want to do this. But she felt so set up, right? It's like, I just said I would say yes. So she said yes. Well, this gentleman ended up meeting with her, a delightful man. He had had a song inspiration when he was dealing with the loss of his grandmother. He was visiting with her, and his grandmother, they were very close, and she could tell it was really hard for him. And so she said to him, how can I help you say goodbye? And when he presented that to Karen, she was like, such a beautiful song idea. Yes, we can write this. So of course she did. She wrote this song, and that song ended up getting recorded by Patti Loveless, went to #1 in the country charts. That got her Grammy nomination, got Karen her Grammy nomination. Also recorded by Laura Branigan, Al Jarreau, others, many other artists recorded, and many other people benefited from that song. And I was thinking, I had actually run across all of this yesterday because I thought, it'd be great to do this song. That's not enough notice, that's not fair to try and say learn it. I thought, well, we could play the video. It's like, you go find the video, play it yourself, give her money. But I do want to read the chorus because I think the heart of the song is really in the chorus. There are like 3 different stories of separation that come up during the song. But the chorus says, Mama whispered softly, time will ease your pain. Life's about changing. Nothing ever stays the same. And she said, how can I help you to say goodbye? It's okay to hurt, and it's okay to cry. Come, let me hold you, and I will try. How can I help you to say goodbye? And Karen finishes this talk by reminding us to follow our bliss and to say yes to life. So Karen's choices throughout this story, she chose to make changes that served her higher good. She chose to follow her bliss. She chose to be that songwriter as a career. She chose to take that pledge because she knew it would serve her higher spiritual self. She didn't know how, but she knew it would. That change and that choice coupled together are so incredibly powerful. So we know right now We're all dealing with the loss of our beloved Miss Nancy, as well as the loss of other family, other friends, finances, jobs, careers, homes. We've had a loss of a world that we recognize. John Maxwell said, "Change is inevitable. Growth is optional." I choose growth. I would hope you would too. Your bliss, your love is what you are called to be. So it is what you are meant to grow into. Even if the world has changed so much that you don't recognize anything, it's okay. Allow for that change. Allow for that growth. Allow yourself to make the choices. And then hold on to your faith, hold on to hope, and hold on to love and bliss. Because the greatest of those things is love. And it will show you who you are growing into. And so it is. Now let us prepare for a brief meditation. Michael, would you? So if you would go ahead and close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. Feet on the floor, hands in your lap, palms up, ready to receive. I want you to take a deep breath in and then exhale fully. Next, breathe in through that heart center. Breathe in deeply and exhale fully. On your next in-breath, move that focus down to your navel, that center of your power of order. And know as you breathe in deeply that despite any outward appearances, your life is balanced and in order, and all is well. And now, if it feels right to you, allow my words to be your words. I let go of any distracting thoughts. I let go of any tension in my body. I feel the release of that which I have outgrown, knowing that I am indeed free and unlimited. I feel God's presence, knowing that God is a love that has no end and a power that knows no bounds. God's power is living in me and as me, and I have no fear. I see every change in my life as an opportunity for me to make a conscious choice to grow. I am at peace, and all is well. Rest in that truth as we go into the silence. As you bring your attention back to the room, remember that as we make our way through this world, we can only ever see a portion of what is real and true. But there will come a time when we see fully. Now is the time for us to put away the things of our earlier life. It is time for us to take up the mantle of spiritual adulthood and step into the beings we are becoming, guided by love, for love never fails. And so it is.